Today, I'm going to tell you why hybrid workers at home should be making 10% more than their co-workers doing the same job at the office. Hey, I'm Michael Robinson. Welcome to my channel, where we talk about everything relating to your career. Don't forget to click the subscribe button to be notified of upcoming shows and give us a thumbs up. If you like what we're saying, share your thoughts, comments, ideas, and experiences so we all can learn and grow together in this unusual time of our economy. Today we're going to be talking about the hybrid worker at home and the disparity in income that those people are making that are oftentimes overlooked by employers and even the employees themselves. Most independent contractors file what's called a 1099 at the end of the year and pay their own taxes, and therefore these expenses go against any income that they might have earned during that year, lowering the amount of taxes that they pay to the federal and state governments. However, when you are an employed individual working for a company and you're working at home in a very similar situation, right? You're utilizing your own electricity, you're using a space in your apartment or your house to do that work, you're using your telephone, you're using the internet. Those expenses oftentimes go unnoticed by employers because many of them are glad to get you out of the office because they're actually reducing some of their overhead in the process. But the bottom line is that you are incurring some of the expenses that they are reducing. So what does that mean? Are you going to be reimbursed for those expenses? Because remember, your employer is going to write those expenses off at the end of the year in their tax return. That means the desk where you were sitting, that means the electricity that you might have been using at your little workstation or in your office. That means your telephone, whatever, cleaning expenses, all of those things are written off by your employer at the end of the year. And therefore, it reduces the amount of money that he or she pays to the federal and state government. Why should you, the employee at home, incur those expenses and not be reimbursed for them? We're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you a case as to what it is you should be doing to make sure that you stay relevant in ensuring that you secure the right amount of money for yourself. Most states' tax laws are different, one from the other. And oftentimes they can conflict with even the IRS or the federal tax, right? Some states don't have taxes, like Florida, for example, while others have astronomical amount of payroll taxes, like New York City. You pay for city taxes and you pay for state taxes. So the tax laws vary from state to state, and you need to know what the tax law is in your state. If you're a hybrid worker working as an independent contractor or a gig situation from home, you can certainly write off these expenses without blinking an eyelash. However, if you are an employed individual getting a W-2 at the end of the year from things can be a little bit dicey because the government don't like to pay for reimbursables when they feel that your employer should be paying for them. Rightfully so. Your employer is benefiting tremendously from you working at home because in many ways they're getting you to work at home at a reduced cost, right? Because they're not paying for the necessary expenses that you would have incurred if you were working in the office. Now, shouldn't they be paying you to utilize your electricity and your internet and even your work desk at home, right? Where you're actually sitting, it is normal that they will pay for your equipment, your computer or your printer or your telephone in many cases, or they will give you a reimbursable stipend for your phone on a regular basis. But what about all of those other expenses like your desk where you're working, or your electricity that you're paying the bill for, or your internet that you're using on a regular basis, or maybe the safeguards you have in place to protect your systems from hacking and whatnot. These are things that your employer are not paying for and can add up quite a bit. As a matter of fact, the IRS states that an independent contractor working from home can incur a cost of rental expense of $5 per square foot for the area in which that individual is working within the house, a maximum being $1,500 per month. So that's a sizable amount of money when you think about it, because if you have a desk and you have a printer and you have other things that you're working with for the office, that could be a good 200 square feet, and you can actually think about that in terms of a dollar figure that you can say to your employer, this is what I'm incurring to work from home. So at the end of the day, it is difficult to add every penny and dollar to make sense of this all. However, you can actually ask your employer to give you a 10% increase to cover these expenses, which is not unreasonable. Because if you're making $50,000 a year, 10% of that is $5,000. And I'm talking about $5,000 per year divided into 12 months, right? Or if you're making $100,000 a year and you ask for a 10% increase, that's $10,000 divided into 12 months or 52 weeks. Whatever your pay cycle is, it is not an astronomical amount of money, but it is enough money that will help you cover the expenses of these miscellaneous situations that you're not able to deduct on your taxes. Because let's face it, if you were an independent contractor, if you were self-employed working from home, getting a 1099, you would be able to file these expenses to the IRS or to the state and local governments and reduce the amount of money you're paying in taxes, thereby saving you quite a bit. So why shouldn't your employer respect the fact that you're utilizing your own equipment, your own space that you're paying rent for or a mortgage for, and give you additional money to cover these expenses? So my suggestion is to put together a proposal. Think about the expenses that you're incurring while working at home that technically your employer should be paying for. And if you were to add those figures up, I'm sure you would be seeing that it's quite sizable. And therefore, giving your employer a proposal such as this is not unreasonable. The bottom line is that don't be afraid to stand up for yourself, because I know it, you know it, based on what we're talking about, and your employer knows it. So if you don't speak up, you're not going to get it. So I would suggest that you ask for an increase in the amount of money that you're earning so that you can cover these expenses that are oftentimes taken for granted. At the end of the day, you're going to be seen as a savvy business person who knows what he or she's talking about, and you will be respected. So if you don't ask, you don't get. Ask for the increase. Put together all of the expenses that you're incurring while working from home that technically the employer should be paying for, and submit it. So what you do is that you want to do a little bit of research before you put your proposal together. The first thing you want to do is take your electrical bill, because that's the first thing that's very common and very easy to look at. And look to see if you're paying more money for electricity now or within the past couple of months that you've been working as a hybrid worker at home than you have been paying in prior months. If you notice that there's a significant increase, then that is a portion of money that you should be putting on your proposal. Or we can just simplify things. Let's say you are paying $100 a month for electricity. You're utilizing your computer 45 hours a week. You're utilizing the lights ahead to keep, the place properly lit. You might have a printer that you're working with or other kinds of equipment. That's quite a chunk of electrical expense you're incurring. So 15% of your electrical bill of $100 is $15. So put that on the proposal. The telephone bill is a little bit more fluid because a lot of companies tend to recognize that you're utilizing the telephone to make calls on their behalf or to call into the office. So they're a little bit more generous in giving you a stipend for the telephone bill. But let's suppose your employer is a cheapskate and is not doing that, then take a look at your telephone bill and see what calls you're making to the office, whether they're just calls to the office or calls to the office and clients. You want to write that down in your reimbursable expenses because you don't want to be paying this out of your pocket. It is ridiculous. So write down the amount of money that you're actually paying for calls to the office or calls to clients, or take a percentage. 15% is a very lovely number. I like that number. And just put that on your proposal. So that's number 2. Number 3, your desk where you're sitting. Think about the space you're utilizing to work. Measure the square footage. Multiply that by $5 per square feet. Put that on the proposal as well. Number 4, the internet. You're paying for the internet, right? To keep things running smoothly, to keep the channels of communication going effectively and whatnot. And many of you have good quality internet, which is a little bit more expensive. So therefore, your employer should be incurring that cost of ensuring that you're getting the work done and you're getting it done efficiently, and you're not having some slow computer that's taking 4 hours to send a message out that goes out in 5 minutes or less. So, hey, your employee should be paying for that as well. So 15% of your internet bill, you should be paying for. And what about your travel? What if you have to travel to buy supplies, or you have to travel to make a client visit, or whatever it might be? Those are expenses that should be part of the proposal. Now, I like having a fixed figure because on some level it is a little bit better to navigate. So I say a 10% increase of your salary is a beautiful number that you can work with comfortably versus having to itemize everything every week, every month, which can be laborious and sometimes difficult, especially if you don't have the information in front of you. But based on research, based on what you know, based on using your common sense, you can figure out what the nuance is in terms of the dollar figures and put together a reasonable proposal to give to your boss to ensure that you are covering your expenses outside of your salary. This has nothing to do with your salary because remember, if you were working in the office, you're going to be making the same salary anyway. So therefore, if you're working at home, you should be making more than what you should be earning from working in the office. And the justification is that you're utilizing your electricity, you're utilizing your space at home that should be for maybe your kid's playpen or something, you're utilizing your internet and telephone expenses and all of those things, including equipment, right? So make sure your proposal is comprehensive and clearly outlining all of these things and how much it's costing you. So this is why my justification of a 10% increase in what you're earning right now is a fair market value to cover those basic expenses that we've just mentioned. And it is not making you look bad. It's making you look business savvy. It's making you look proactive and highly aware of what's going on. Employers love that. So speak up and speak out and get your proposal together, submit it to your boss, and be compensated for your expenses that you're incurring while working out of the home for the company that you're working for. So until next time, remember, think like an entrepreneur. You'll succeed in your career.